Hey everybody, I'm Nathaniel Dodson from tutvid.com. Welcome right into this Photoshop tutorial where today we're going to compare smart objects with raster objects and why you might want to use smart objects, or maybe you want to continue working with raster objects. This tutorial will be perfect for you if you don't know the difference between the two and maybe want to understand why should I use smart objects, or should I use smart objects at all. If you do enjoy this video, number one, it'd be great if you would subscribe to the channel so you never miss any Photoshop tutorials in the future. But also, if you really enjoy the video, you can pick up my Photoshop course. It's all about how to retouch images in Photoshop. I think you'll really enjoy it, and it helps support the channel as well. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into Photoshop right now and check this stuff out. Alrighty, so here we are in Photoshop, and let's just kick this thing right off. I'm not really going to cover all the ins and outs of smart objects, just covering the merit versus demerit of smart objects. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut out a square of her face. I'm going to pop her up onto a new layer, Command or Control J, and then I'm going to select the original layer. I'm going to cut out a square of his face, and I'm going to pop him up onto a new layer, Command or Control J. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave her as the not smart object. I'm going to right-click on his layer and convert him to a smart object. And then what I'll do, I'll select both layers here, I'll grab my move tool, and I'm just going to move them out to here, and then I'm going to separate them a little bit, kind of like this. And what I first want to do is just take a look at what happens when you scale a smart object up or down. So if we take her and we scale her up, we make her huge, we commit the change, we can see we're losing some quality. It still looks okay, not bad. I'm going to select him, Command or Control T to free transform. I'm going to scale him up. I'm holding down Shift and Alt, by the way. That's Shift and Option on the Mac. We can see, again, not much detail is lost, but roughly the same. Smart object, no advantage over the raster object. Now we're going to take the raster object. We're going to scale it way down, make it tiny, something like that. And I'm going to do the same thing here for the smart object. I'm going to take it down. I noticed that the raster object went to 3%, so I'm going to take him down to 3%. There we go. Now I'm going to select her, and I'm going to scale her back up to about the original size, something like that. Whoa, looks pretty bad. I'm going to now Command or Control T, and I'm going to scale him back up to original size. And you can see, because he was wrapped within the smart object, all of the original data is preserved. Whereas with our raster object, all that data is not preserved. So you can't make these sort of smart transformations that you can undo. In fact, if I hit Command or Control T, I can see that I've actually scaled him to 137% of his original size. Whereas her, if I hit Command or Control T, it's always going to tell me she's at 100%. So like if I scale her down, make her smaller, and commit that, and then hit Command or Control T, see, she's still at 100%. Whereas with him, if I select him and scale him down, right, scale him down like that big, and then I hit Command or Control T, Photoshop's going to tell me, yeah, look, you're at 78%, buddy. You are not quite at 100%, but, you know, you still have some data there to gain. So I could pull this back to about 100%, and the image will be just perfect. So obviously, preserving the editability and original pixel information is a huge part of smart objects and why they're so incredibly helpful. If you're working on a project, you need to scale graphics or photos or anything up or down, just lock them up in a smart object and you can scale away. If the client needs to come back a month later and says, ooh, can you make this a little bit bigger? Yeah, of course, I can scale it right back up. No skin off my back at all. So let's go to another image here, and we'll check this out. I'm just going to convert this layer to a smart object. Right-click, convert to smart object. And the cool thing about this is now any filter I apply is going to be a smart filter. In fact, I'm going to hit Command or Control J to duplicate this, and I'm going to right-click and just choose to rasterize the layer. You can think of rasterizing a layer as unsmart objectifying it. It just makes it a raster object. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say filter, let's just blur it. Let's straight up blur it. We'll go Gaussian blur, not 200 pixels. That's a little extreme. We'll go like 25 pixels and hit OK. All right, so there's the blur applied to the raster object. Great. Moving on to the smart object. And I'll hit filter, and I'm just going to say, yeah, same exact Gaussian blur. Yep, apply that. Great. And now there's absolutely no difference between the two layers. So what's the advantage to the smart object? We'll check this out. See, this image or this layer, it just is what it is. But the smart object has this little doodad over here, and my magnifying glass is not working quite that close to the edge of the screen for whatever reason. But that little icon just signifies that we're working with smart filters. And number one, smart filters come with a mask. So I could select this mask, and I can say, you know what, I actually wanted everything blurred except for, and I can grab my brush tool here, a large soft edge brush, I'm painting with black. I could say I wanted everything blurry except like this bridge right through here. Right, something like that. Maybe I could even cut it across like that. No, maybe not. I'll just stick with the bridge. Something like that. And I can just uncover the blurring from there. I'm going to undo that. And maybe I want the image to be not quite so blurry. Well, I can double click on the word Gaussian blur, And I can say, look, we actually only want a 5 pixel blur. Boom. There we go. We update it. We also have some blending options here. If I hit the little double slider dealio, and I can reduce the opacity of the blur. And it gives me this kind of weird, dreamy Vaseline on lens effect. I'm not really digging it, but this is really helpful for a bunch of different filters and things that you can apply. You can apply a blend mode right off the bat. So you can say, yeah, I'll take this to soft light and give this kind of this soft glowing contrast effect. You can do all kinds of stuff. Or you can just grab any filter. You can say, you know what, dump it in the trash. And it's not letting me do that because it's the only filter, so I need to grab the whole thing and dump it in the trash. Oh, I tried to drag it to the new layer icon. That's my mistake. But you can delete those filters and get rid of them. And now we're back to the original sharp image. And the not-so-smart object, well, you can't do that with that. So I'm going to delete that not-so-smart object, and I'm going to roll with my smart object. Now, another thing you can do with smart objects, and maybe I'll go to another image here. I'm going to duplicate this, Command or Control J, select the background image, right-click, and just choose to convert it to a smart object. Of course, we can use our adjustment layers, right? So we can go like color balance and just pump a bunch of red into the photo or pump a bunch of blue into the photo, whatever it is we decide we want to do, and it would affect the image. And we can always select color balance and get rid of it or adjust the opacity, whatever. But there are rare occasions where you want to apply adjustments directly to the layer. And if you do that with an image, you can go like Image, Adjustments, and say, where's your color balance? Boom. We can say, yeah, we just want a bunch of cyan and a bunch of blue. Voila. Well, you can do that with a smart object as well. So we can go Image, Adjustments, and say, hey, color balance. We can apply the same change and hit OK. And we're going to get that listed as an effect, or an adjustment, I should say, that's been added to our smart object. So I can shut it off, I can turn it on, I can double click on it, I can come in and say, you know what, the client actually decided they want more of like a yellow and red thing, and they want just a touch of blues in the shadows and a bunch of red in the shadows. And then for the highlights, they just want it to be very yellow and very red. And I can hit OK. And I can change that color balance. And oh, by the way, I can double click the little sliders here, and this is where opacity can be helpful because you can just reduce the opacity of that effect or adjustment that you've applied to your smart object as well. So there's before and there's after. That smart object just gives you that added bit of flexibility. Now, if I jump out to my Finder, one of the other great things is we can drag a .ai file into our image. I'm going to just drop this file into here, and I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to make it nice and tiny. And maybe we're working on an ad for this video app or something. And whoop, I don't mean to grab that. I mean to, I'm going to commit the change, and I'm just going to drag it like normal. So maybe we're working on some kind of ad, and we've got some text or something over here, and we send the advertisement off to the client, and they say, you know what? We actually want the video icon to be a little bit bigger. Well, of course, if we had just drawn it in Photoshop and it was what it was, we would be in trouble. In fact, if I simply right-click this and had rasterized it, and then they say, no, we want that video icon to be big, like we want it to be this big, and then I commit that, well, obviously you can see it's very soft, it's all artifacty, it's not very sharp, it doesn't have nice crisp edges, and just overall not at all suitable to send off to a client. So of course I would delete that. Now, when we drag a .ai or an EPS or an SVG or a PDF, a lot of different files into a Photoshop document, in fact, other images into a Photoshop document, hit OK, it's going to be placed in Photoshop as a smart object. How do we know that? Well, we know that because it's got the little smart object icon there in the layers panel. Now, because this is a .ai file, it is going to maintain its vectorness. So I could take this and I could say, you know what, I want this to be absolutely massive, and I could drag it out over the entire image and say, I'm the advertisement now. Something like that, commit the change. It's going to actually like redraw that vector information. You can see how it's rendering a placed document in Photoshop, and that's actually saying, hey, Adobe Illustrator file, go ahead and draw these lines for us and make sure they're all perfectly crisp and sharp, and the little drop shadow, everything, just make sure it's just the way it should be. That you can't do with a raster object. So the smart object maintains that, a link, if you will, and it recognizes that this is a vector file, and it will allow you to scale up and down as much as you need without losing that detail and sharpness and crispness and just niceness. Now, one of the other things we can do, let's just right-click on this and rasterize this layer. Notice the color balance has just been baked into it. That's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to hit Command-Shift or Control-Shift-J. That is, cut to a new layer, and I'm just going to shift them over a little bit, and then I'm going to grab the middle tones here, or the middle drift, I should say, and I'm going to select on layer 0 and Command-Shift or Control-Shift-J again here. I'll drag them off that way, grab the original layer, and we're going to do the same thing down here with their hips, and I'm going to Command-Shift or Control-Shift-J once more. And then I'm going to drag this one off to the right. So we kind of have this crazy thing going on here. We can even add an adjustment layer here just above the background layer, but beneath our little cutouts. So maybe we'll go like curves, and we'll say we really want to neutralize some of that red. So we're going to pull down on the reds a lot. And to really set it off, we're going to really boost the blues a lot. So something like that, just so we have this nice offset effect. Then I can select all these layers by shift-clicking. Shift-click the bottom one, shift-click the top, and it's going to select every layer in between. Right-click on a grouping of layers, and you can convert this to a smart object. So there we go. This is now a smart object, and we can apply all kinds of stuff to this as well. If you had like a layer group or something where you say, you know what, I want to apply an editable filter to this entire group of layers, convert it to a smart object, you can do that. Again, not something you can do with raster files or raster layers or anything like that. You need that smart objectness. Let's jump into another image here for another example. And let's say this is a double-page spread for, I don't know, some Greek smoking magazine or something, let's say. What I'm going to do is I am going to navigate out to my desktop, and I'm going to grab this black and white JPEG. I'm going to drag and drop it into my Photoshop document. I'm going to commit the change. You can see right off the bat, boom, it is a smart object. Great. Now I'm going to select him. I am going to scale him way down, and I'm going to put him like right here, something like that. Great. Now I'm going to duplicate this smart object a number of times. I'm going to move him down a little bit here. Command or Control J. I'm going to drag him up, holding down Shift here, and he'll click right to the edge. Holding down Alt or Option, I can drag out another copy. Hold down Alt or Option, drag out another copy. So just like that, I have all these copies of this black and white photo. Well, check this out. If I double click into one of these smart objects by just double clicking on its layer thumbnail, and I say, you know what, I want this black and white to be... maybe I want it to have just a color cast or something. So I can go like photo filter. Here's a super basic way of doing this. And let's just give it a really strong yellow color cast. I'm not going to preserve luminosity. And this is this JPEG. I'm going to hit Command or Control S to save over it. It's going to say, look, you can't save this document back to its original file format. You need to flatten the layers. Why is it saying that? Because a JPEG, which you can see this is a .jpeg, it can't carry layers like a PSD. So, okay, no problem. We'll go layer. We will flatten the image. Boom. And we'll save this. So Command or Control S. We're saving it. And I can close it, and whoa, well, hold on a second here. All of our smart objects updated. And that's because if you create a piece of art or a photo or something and convert it to a smart object, let's just take an ellipse for an example here. I'm going to drag out a circle. I'm going to make it a blue circle, and I'm going to give it a really heavy pink border. So I'm going to select the stroke options. There we go. Select pink, and I'm getting all kinds of craziness here because I have a dashed path. I want to go solid path, and I want to say, look, you path, go on the outside of my blue. And maybe blue is a bad choice because it's so close to the color of the sky, so let's go yellow. We can see a very noticeable circle here in the sky. Well, now this object is not a smart object yet. It's just a you can see a shape layer. But if I right-click, convert it to a smart object, it's now something that I can drag duplicates out of. So I can hold down Alt or Option and drop it all over the place. And the client says, ooh, you know what? It's a cool idea, but we would rather the circle be the blue color of the dome and the stroke be the white of like the shadow side of this wall or whatever. Okay, we need to redraw all these circles. No, we don't. All we need to do is double click into this ellipse and we can go ahead and edit it. You can see here, this is our shape layer. Open up my properties panel, and I can say, all right, the fill, we need to be some kind of a blue, and the stroke, it needs to be not quite white, more like a super duper light gray, and this is a .psb, which is just your sort of smart object file within Photoshop. I'm just going to hit File, Save. It's going to save that. Photoshop will save that where it needs to save it in its temporary files. Command or Control W to close that, and you can see all of the smart objects have updated. So it's a really, really great feature that you have when you're working with a smart object. You can update multiple files. Now, that's not it. I am going to get rid of a bunch of these. I'm just going to save one of these. I'm going to go back into this file, and I'm going to say, you know what, let's slap a gradient map over this black to white to make this guy a black and white image again. He's all flattened out. Command or Control S to save him, close him. Our image is back to black and white. What if we want to use this image as a placeholder, but we don't want all of them to be linked together? You can right-click on that smart object layer and choose New Smart Object via Copy. And that's going to create another smart object, but one that is sort of delinked from that parent object, if you will. So I'm going to do this another couple times, New Smart Object via Copy, drag this up, and then we'll right-click and do another New Smart Object via Copy, and last but not least, drag that up. Now, what we want to do is create this kind of like monotone effect where the top image is black and white, but all the images underneath are a different shade of color. Well, another thing you can do with a smart object that you can't do with a raster object is right-click and choose Replace Contents. Right there, Replace Contents. And when I do this, I have a red version of this JPEG, a green version, and a blue version. So I'm going to replace this with red. This is the same exact file size in terms of dimensions and in terms of resolution. So when I place this, you're going to see that it's going to drop it right in place. Now, if I hit Command or Control T, it's saying, yeah, look, this is just 18.92% of what you originally had going on here, but It just fits exactly because this red image at 100%, same exact size and same exact resolution as the black and white. So I'm going to speed this up now, and I'm going to replace the contents of both my other images, and I'll be right back. And you can see, just like that, it is done. Now, there's one last thing that I want to show you with regard to the advantages of smart objects, and then we'll talk about a couple disadvantages they have, and we'll wrap this thing up, get the show on the road. Let me create a new document here. I'm going to go File, New. We're going to create a new graphic. And let's say 1000 by 1000, but I'm going to set the height to more like 200. Resolution, that's fine. RGB color mode, everything else is fine. We're going to go ahead and create this. And all I want to do here is I want to fill this with like a blue. So I'm going to double click or just click on my color fill here. Drag my picker into screen, and we'll give this, we'll go with kind of a blue here, maybe a desaturated middle blue, something like that. Alt or Option, backspace or delete. That'll be Option delete on the Mac, Alt backspace on the PC, and you got the blue. And then I'm going to take the text here, and I'm just going to type anything out. I'm just going to say Greece, just because we're looking at a photo of Greece, and my text is the same blue as the background, so we're going to make it white. I'm going to hit OK. And the text is also way too big, so I'm going to select this and make it more like 36 point. There we go. And I'll just drag this over, kind of something like that. The font doesn't even matter. We're just creating this to create an example. And what I'm going to do now is save this as a PSD. I'm going to save it right to my desktop. In fact, before I do it, what I want to do, I want to make the background here just a solid color layer. It'll just make it easier to change the color later. I'm going to go with the same exact blue and then just hit the little lock icon and drag this to the garbage. Just now when we want to change the color, double click on the color and we can swap it whatever way we like. All right, Command-Shift-S, or we can just go File, Save As. And I'm going to call this header pop out or something like that, whatever. It can be whatever. And it's a PSD. I'm going to hit OK. And now I'll just close this file. Boom. So now let's say we want to drag that in. It's part of a much larger graphic design project we're working on for a client, where they're working on this smoking magazine spread, and they've got, well, not this image. We're going to can this image. And it also has this for some reason. This will be another, this is one of the fashion photos or something from the Greece trip. And how the fashion and the smoking intertwine, I don't know. We're just kind of doing whatever we want here. What I'll do at this point is I will place a linked smart object. There's a few ways you can do this, but to make sure you're absolutely placing a linked smart object, I would recommend you go File, Place Linked right here. And I'm going to choose my header popout.psd, and I'm going to hit place. Voila. I'm going to go ahead and move it wherever I want, like right there maybe, and we can see, yep, this is Greece. We're rolling. And you can see here, it's giving me this little like linked icon down in the bottom corner of that layer thumbnail. That's fine. I'm going to do the same thing over here with luxury man and girl. I'm going to go File. I'm going to place linked. And here, I'm going to double click on header pop out as well. And we're going to place this up about the same area. It doesn't have to be perfect. At this point, we close our documents down. We send them off to the client. Client says, like, I like it, but I really want the solid blue color to be maybe, I don't know, red or something like that. Well, this is kind of a pain in the neck, right? Well, not really, because we can jump out to our Finder, and I can select that header popout.psd, right-click on it, and just choose to open it up in Photoshop. Really, I can just double-click on it. I don't know why I'm making it more complex than it has to be. And I can change this background color to, what did I say it needed to be? A bit of a red color. Let's go more red, something kind of like that. Hit OK, and I save this, Command or Control-S, and then I close it. And wherever that linked file is placed, even inside of other PSDs, you can see that it automatically updates. This is one of the most incredibly powerful features of smart objects and is so super helpful, especially when you're working on real-life projects for clients. The fact that you can link smart objects across multiple documents and update the sort of master file and all of the children throughout all these different documents update, that's really powerful. And you still have all the other features that you would, where filters are going to be smart filters, and you can size and scale and move this however you like, and you're not going to lose that detail. And just all of the merits that we've talked about in terms of why you should use smart objects. So this all begs the question, I'm going to delete this linked smart object here. This all begs the question, why wouldn't Photoshop just make it default that you use smart objects always? Well, a couple things. First and foremost is, if I right-click on this and convert it to a smart object, you're going to have a larger file size. So just by converting this to a smart object, my file size didn't get larger. But if I took this and scaled it down, let's say, or made my image actually smaller using image size, I'm not going to lose file size because this whole huge version of this image is still being carried. So that's one thing. The other thing is, if you want to edit pixels directly, if I wanted to zoom in on this guy and paint a blue plus on his temple, right? I could take my brush, and if I click, it's going to say, no, this smart object must be rasterized before proceeding. Edit contents will no longer be available. Would you like to rasterize a smart object? I'm going to cancel it out. I don't want to do that. The workaround, of course, is do everything on a new layer. So if you're creating that little blue plus, just do it up on a new layer. If you're retouching skin, well, all you want to do is use something like your healing brush tool and make sure you're sampling current and below. And then you can sample from that lower layer, but you're actually doing all the healing up on this top layer above the smart object. So there are workarounds, but those would have to be the two big downsides that I would point out in terms of it's still a little bit of a pain in the neck to work with smart objects, but when you compare it against all the benefits of working with a smart object, it's really an incredibly small price to pay. Smart objects are just super powerful. And maybe this is something that in the future the developers over at Photoshop, or at Adobe, I should say, will be able to fix and maybe make smart objects. I don't know. I don't know exactly how they would do it, but there's got to be a way to do it. So maybe that's something that they would be able to adjust and make it a little bit easier in terms of working with smart objects. But all things considered, I would argue that the benefits of using smart objects far outweigh the benefits of not using smart objects in terms of non-destructive editing, preservation of the original file, linking smart objects, having a smart object, a smart object that can have these children. You edit one, it edits all of them. Of course, you can break them out to be copied smart objects so they can stand on their own. You can replace the contents. There's just so much you can do with smart objects. The question, I think, isn't why should I use smart objects? The question should be, why aren't you already using smart objects? And there you have it, a breakdown of should I smart object or should I dumb object? What's the best thing to do? A couple downsides to smart objects, but there are a lot of really great upsides, and there's just a lot you can do with them that I didn't even cover in this video. It's a very deep topic, and something that I think you should know about. So I just want to do a quick breakdown of smart object versus raster object. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, again, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me over there on Instagram at tutvid. If you do Discord, you can follow our Discord server, discord.me/tutvid, where the conversation just goes on and on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, for working with smart objects and raster objects for that matter, because they do have their merit, smart objects and smart filters and transformations and preserving data and the larger file sizes, lo and behold, that's it. Get it, got it, good. Nathaniel Dodson, tutvid.com. I'll catch you in the next one. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more great tutorials every day. Also, buy my course. It helps us do what we do, and this channel is supported by viewers just like you. You can also just click the thumbnail and watch another video from this channel. See you next time, guys.